Sherm Chester with Sam Bruno today on the Seacoast Sports Forum. And Sam, we're into 2022. So I guess my first question for you is, give me a quick sports assessment for you about 2021, some of the highlights and lowlights.
I think 2021 had the COVID imprint still on it. I think last winter, it was still a difficult situation. Major League Baseball moved through in the summer and got most everything in, got everything done, had a pretty good season. The fall has been with the virus coming up, I think has been a little bumpy, and the last month has been tough. A lot of games getting postponed, a lot of games getting rescheduled. So it's still been the number one sports story of 2021 has been COVID protocols, who's in, who's out, who can play. You don't know from week to week what's going to be happening. And some of the outbreaks have been significant, especially in the last couple of weeks with players, whether they're going to be able to be on rosters or not. So it's still the number one issue for me going into 2022.
What are some of the highlights? What were anything that just sticks out that, like, hey, that was a good thing that happened, or a good?
Well, I think the bounce back of the Red Sox, I think, was important. I think Alex Cora coming back and getting the team back online, getting the team moving ahead. I think having a very successful season. Certainly, we can forget about the 2021 Patriots. No playoffs in 2021 for the Patriots, so 2022 will be a lot better. And in high school sports, again, you and I commented a number of times in games that we were at. We were just happy to be there, whether it be basketball or football. We were just happy that the games were taking place, and everybody did a real nice job in making sure that everything was in line, so that the high school students could get back on the field, and they did in 2021.
And then I would say, from my viewpoint, again, COVID being the dominant factor in the sports world, like you just said, look at what just happened recently with NHL games and teams being canceled for a week at a time because of the rampant spread of it. I was proud of the way they did handle it, the locally and the state level, the NHIAA and UNH, where we work. They did a fine job keeping it under control and keeping a team on the field. I don't think it was the season they were expecting or wanting, but on the other hand, they played football. And I think, and we've talked about it in one of our previous shows, that, Coach Mack retiring, we would have liked to have seen him go out on a winning note. But hey, at least he played football. And I think that was his chief concern, to get a team out on the field, a healthy team, and play some football. That was accomplished. The coming year, well, we are now getting into the nuts and bolts of the winter sports season for the school boys and girls, and it's going to be interesting to see, having gone through the holiday season, if there are going to be any effects. We know New Hampshire is up there in the top tier when it comes to contagion, and we're going to have to just see if this is going to have an effect on the ending of the sports seasons for the school boys and girls. I'll be happy in 2022, and hopefully in 2022 we can take one word out of our vocabulary: protocols. But right now the protocols are still definitely in effect, and if you go to any venue now, I think 99% of them are masks up, and some are demanding, if you've been having your vaccinations, public events like concerts and whatever. So yeah, it'll be nice to have that freedom back again, to just go and enjoy the game and not have to talk through a microphone or into a microphone with a mask on. It just kind of complicates things. Let's talk about basketball. You've seen the school girls, and I've been doing the boys PA at Exeter High School, and some of the teams we've seen them play. Your impressions? We had the coaches on in a previous show before the holidays.
They did a real nice job. You did a real nice job. We're lucky to have guys like Jeff Holmes and Dave Solkanicki. I mean, they certainly represent their teams well, and they're good coaches, and they know how to handle young people, and they have the right values. That's important.
Yeah, and I want to get a shout out to the JV coaches, Amanda Swazinski for the girls, and Kevin Walker for the guys. It's important for any program to have a system in place that you bring guys up or gals up through the system to reload. And Exeter has been fortunate from what I've seen. We've got a real good varsity team this year that's clicking, and Kevin Walker's got a good JV farm system. So Jeff Holmes doesn't have to worry about the future. And I think the same for Dave Sokolnicki. And it just, it makes it exciting to go to those games and watch the kids play their hearts out. It really is.
Well, for the girls so far, Sherm, it's again amazing with the different schedule this year. We're here early January, and almost half the season is over.
I know.
That's never happened to me in the 40 plus years that I've been doing high school basketball. You usually just get after the high school tournament and your season starts, but the holiday tournament, but not this year, with the games being played, regular season games being played over the holiday break. It's a different world as far as high school basketball with the regular season that's going to be ending by the end of the month. If you haven't seen a girls game, the first thing that you will notice with the girls team is Coach Sokolnicki's substitution pattern, which is everybody plays. Right. And again, this whole, 5 players will come out and 5 players will go in all at once. He has units for different situations that he rotates throughout the games to keep everybody fresh. So that defensive effort is always strong. For the girls so far, Emma Smith has been very solid. Erin McElroy is solid. He's got some height in there with Ari Pompeo in the middle. Some of the younger players like Grace Weed, Haley Harrington. I think with the Bluehawk girls team, they're going to live and die by the 3. If they're hitting their three pointers, they're going to do very well. I've seen them struggle as well. They ran up against 2 of the solid teams in Division I, Bishop Girton and Bedford, and really they just weren't in those games. To look ahead to the tournament down the road in 4 weeks, will Bishop Girton and Bedford be there at the end? Certainly, possibly. Are the Bluehawks a playoff team? Definitely. And I think they're getting better every single game. So it's going to be encouraging for the Bluehawk girls team that their effort, their shooting is improving, and they'll be there at the end. But again, the top 4 teams in Division I, Pinkerton, Bishop Girton, Portsmouth, and Bedford, those are solid teams. Those are solid teams, and everybody's going to have their hands full with those 4, especially Girton and Bedford, who I've seen. Their height is just impressive. They're starting a front line of 5'10", 5'11", 6 foot. It's going to be difficult for teams with those units.
And don't count out those Portsmouth Clippers. I got to see that team, and they always reload. They are there to win, and that's a girls team that again reloads every year. So they'll be in the thick of things for sure.
Tim Hopley's a solid coach, and he's got some very good guards. Bella Slover, certainly one of the top players in the state.
I was going to say on the boys' side of things, I'm just looking at the standings here. Trinity and Pinkerton seem to be dominant right now. Nashua North, another dominant dog.
Where did Trinity come from? I thought Trinity basketball was in the hopper for a long time.
I know.
All of a sudden, the Pioneers are back.
They must be recruiting. Exeter is right up there in the top tier. So, people who were used to the undefeated championship season and 2 championships in a row. This team is going to be, it's got a lot of heart. So it's going to be in the thick of things. We'll have to see how we go up against Trinity and Pinkerton. And speaking of playoffs, the NHIA announced they have a new setup, not a new setup, but they've announced a schedule for the playoffs, boys and girls, Division I, Division II. Why don't you tell us about it? Well,
yeah, it is going to be different, Sherm. And certainly the first 2 rounds, the prelim round and the quarterfinal round, will be played at the higher seed teams. So again, you're going to try to finish in that top 8. So you get at least a home game in the preliminary round. I think it's still set up so that the number one team gets a bye and the other teams, the next 15 teams will play against each other in the standings. The semifinal round still to be determined of where those sites are going to be. Not yet set of where the semis will be played, but we know where the finals are going to be played, and they're going to be played on February 20th, which is a Sunday. That's the week after Super Bowl Sunday. They're going to be back at UNH. After, there was certainly, because of COVID and things like that, when the football playoffs were knocked out of Wildcat Stadium, we thought, well, maybe they're not just ever going to go back to UNH now. But the NHIAA and the personnel at UNH agreed that February 20th will be the high school finals for Division I and Division II. And here's your schedule. Division I boys will be at 10 a.m. Early wake-up call for the Division I boys. They're going to kick things off at 10 a.m. And then Division II will go at 1 o'clock. 4 o'clock will be the Division I girls, and 7 o'clock will be the Division II girls. So 4 championship games in one day. I can't remember that ever happening.
It's always fun, though, at UNH, and I was glad that they were able to work it out. I guess there was some concerns at the beginning that there might be conflicts for the schedules, but because it was an accelerated schedule, I love that phrase, accelerated schedule for the basketball here in the state this year. They were worried about any conflicts, but I guess they've worked it out. So good.
Well, it used to be that the high school semis and finals would be during spring break for UNH in March.
Right.
But this February date was turned out to be a pretty good date on February 20th.
Well, let's shift gears. We've been talking basketball, and we had the coaches for both the boys and girls teams on. Let's go to the hockey rink. And we were fortunate enough to be able to go up to the rinks at Exeter and interview both the coaches of the boys and girls teams for the Exeter Bluehawks. And let's kick things off with our interview with the head boys coach, Paul DiMarino. So I guess give me an assessment of some of your players this year on the team.
We're a good mix. We've got a good group of returners, upperclassmen there, and then we've also got a good mix of underclassmen who are new to the varsity level, and the progress is starting to be seen. I know it's still really early, and we want to continue to see that progress all year, but they're starting to show it, and they're starting to adjust to the level of varsity hockey. And the upperclassmen are doing a good job leading them. So we're making strides. We're a young group, even though we have that group of returners, we're a young group who's getting there. It's not going to happen right now. We're hoping that it's there in March. Mm-hmm. We made some strides forward, but we also kind of, settled a little bit yesterday instead of kind of taking those jumps or those risks. And our hope is the season goes on, we start to see more aggressiveness out of our group.
Give us some of the players that you're going to be really kind of dependent on this year.
First is Henry Fraser in net. He's a senior captain. He was a full-time starter last year. As a junior, he took over the starting role, and he played phenomenal. He was a huge part of our success last year. He gave us a chance in every game, and he won us some games. There were some games where he stepped up that if he didn't play to that level, we didn't win. And then this year, we're going to need him again. He is the backstop back there. He's got a great presence about him. He's calm, he's poised, and we're excited for him. He's going to do really well this year. Another one is his co-captain, is Keegan Knight, is a senior. Leading returning scorer, was actually leading scorer last year as a junior. He is a very skilled hockey player. He can skate, pass, shoot, stick handle, all of it. He's got a great hockey IQ, and he's the ultimate competitor. It could be practice, and we're doing sprints up and down the ice at the end of practice, and he doesn't like to lose. He doesn't like to lose, and when he does, he doesn't lose the next one. So that's awesome, and that rubs off on the rest of this team too.
A leader.
Yes, both of them are.
Your assessment of the teams in the Division I?
I don't think there's, I've said it before, I don't think there's any nights off in Division I. You've got the likes of Bedford, Hanover, Pinkerton, Salem, Trinity, Londonderry, Wyndham this year is going to be really good. Keene is up fully from Division I. We go there next Wednesday. I expect them to be strong. They got a great coach, Chris McIntosh. They're young, but they're good. And then another team I don't like, Concord, is, in a lot of people's opinions, the clear-cut #1 this year. They won the state championship last year, and they bring just about everyone back. They're a very good team. They're incredibly well coached. That's the nice thing. There's a lot of great coaches in this league, and they're incredibly helpful. And we all get along. It's awesome. But competition this year is going to be really, really good. I think deep in terms of the amount of teams that have chances to make a run at the end of the year. I think right now, it's still early, so you never know what happens. But I think early right now, Concord is the favorite. As they should be. They bring almost everyone back. Their top 6 forwards, their goalie, 2 goalies. They have 2 senior goalies who are both very good. So they're going to be very strong, and we're going to have to be at our best every night. We are, and we'll get there.
Now, unlike the basketball that had their season accelerated this year, 3 games a week, yours is basically the same, right? You'll end at the end of February, so that's kind of not an advantage, but a break for the hockey players. Because you guys, there's obviously a lot of travel involved.
Yep.
Did that affect, and COVID over the past couple of seasons, it obviously had a big effect on schedules and practices. What about this season? Is it a little bit more normalcy?
Hesitant to use the word normalcy because the way things have gone recently, but for the most part, it's scheduling-wise, it was 100% where we were 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago. Last year was different because you could find out the day of that you weren't playing your game anymore because another team or your own team had a COVID issue or concern. And this year, you still worry about that. That still is on everyone's mind. But for right now, we're at 2 games a week for the most part. Occasionally, you have 3 because it's not like at the high school where we have a gym. You're at the mercy of the rinks if they have the ice time available for you. But they're great here working with. They always treat us very well. The basketball season being short, if they tried to do that with hockey, it would be incredibly difficult because not all the rinks would be able to support that kind of schedule. And I think that's a big reason why hockey wasn't shortened. Is I think a lot of people recognize it just wouldn't be possible.
Let's look forward to a real action-packed and a successful season for you guys. Keeps going in March.
That's what we're hoping for. We're hoping to get better every day and hope to have a fighting chance at the end of the year. That's our goal right now.
The head coach of the Exeter Bluehawk boys hockey team, that's Paul DiMarino. And let's just go right to the head coach of the girls team. It's Jeff Taylor.
How many years, Jeff?
Jeez, you'd ask me that. 14. 14 as the head coach, and I was around as a goalie coach a little bit before that when John Lesage was the head coach. So we've been fortunate now to have him as an assistant for the last 7-8 years now. I don't do much counting about the past, Sherm.
Yeah, I know.
Plenty of problem solving in front of us. But yeah, it's been 14 years.
14, wow. So give us a thumbnail on this year's team. What are we looking at?
You know what? We are a team that is determined to fight for each other, no matter the situation. That is a team that has each other's backs, that's committed to doing whatever we can do to make something possible for a teammate.
Right.
To do their role, to make the play that comes to them. And if we chain that together, that's how we're going to get where we want to be as a group.
Well, give me an assessment of the division this year.
I think everybody's going to have plenty of ups and downs,
Okay.
which makes for a fun season.
Mm-hmm.
In my book, Hanover's Hanover. BG's going to be, loaded up a little bit again. I see Lebanon, that's been able to hang on to some girls here for a little bit and get some continuity. So I think they're poised to have a strong run. But, again, I think it's going to be a fun season in that every matchup, everybody's got a shot, anytime you drop the puck. And to me, that's better, that factor that you can go out and compete and you could try to, make some sort of a mark for yourself in your program and make progress every time out, no matter who you have on the schedule. That's good for the league. So big thing for us is the leadership in the hallways, in the locker room, team meetings, even before we hit the ice. has been great, and in the offseason it was great. So senior captain Emma Shabru, senior captain Bella Donahue, and we got a junior captain Caitlin Knowles. And the great thing is they're like a super robot you get from one of those 80s cartoons or something. Where they all have different roles, they all have different personalities in that equation. But there's just no question how much they have girls' backs, how much they're there to support and push girls in a positive way. And they do that for each other, and they lead by being accountable to doing that for themselves. They all have their own battles they're fighting to put together in their game or in school, and they lead through that transparency. They put everything into it, and that just radiates out. So to me, you can't beat that. When the chemistry in the hallways and the locker room is working that way, it translates onto the ice and just feeds into anything that you're breaking down to work on, and anything that then you're trying to build up to do together. So can't say enough about that leadership group. And then the other indicator you look for is you don't have to be a captain to be a leader.
Right.
And on this team, we've seen a ton of that already. Just basically any given day, anybody that's out there with us just has shown the ability to step up. And again, just lead through that transparency, lead through that example of here I am fighting my battle.
You've been here 14 years now. What's your secret to keep a team focused?
What's right in front of you right now? What can you do to build some sort of success that you can chain together? Some sort of plus, some sort of movement towards where you want to be, right? Mm-hmm. And where we want to be as a program is always bringing people together, right? It's always building something bigger than yourself. It's representing your community, your family, your school, right? In a positive light, and that can look different for a number of different people. It doesn't matter, right? The difference doesn't matter. What matters is what do we have in common, how can we pull together, and how can we push that forward every day. So I think that's the thing. I get lucky that the girls over the years have just always, they bring that to the fore. Here we are, we want to do this. Right? Year after year, right? So I guess that's the secret. The secret is the kids, right? The secret is the kids showing up and they want to build it and they want to do it, and then just try to tackle again what's right in front of you every day. If you can build that together, then that puts you forward. I guess more than you worry about looking forward. And you can, you're not looking back. You can. You're supported by the past. The past lifts you up a little bit. And that's been a fun thing this year too, actually. I guess I have been around long enough, been hearing from some players from the past, reaching out to these girls a little bit just to let them know how they are part of something bigger than themselves. How there is this tradition that doesn't even have anything to do with what's on a scoreboard or wins and losses or anything like that. It has to do with, what do you carry with you 10 years after you do this.
A tradition.
Yeah, and that tradition it's those core values. How do you treat each other? How do you approach the problems that are in front of you every day? Do you lift people up? Do you pull them together? Do you find ways to set up other people to do their best and have success? And those are the things that I'm hearing from, players from the past when they're reaching out. They played 10 years ago or what have you, and they're talking about those things. Those are the things that they remember. They don't remember we got a penalty, who scored, final scores necessarily. They just remember who they're with, how they approach things, how that felt. Those are the accomplishments. And those are the things that, again, they don't look back, they lean on. They're supported by those things now doing whatever they're doing. And that's really what the whole thing's about.
Jeff Taylor, the head coach, 14 years now. Jeff's been the head coach.
Long time. I was just going to mention that Jeff is now into the veteran stage.
Yeah, as I said to Holmes and Taylor, they've been around long enough now, so they've got guys that come back a decade later and say, I used to play for you. Remember me?
That's right. So not in the Bill Ball status yet, but
no.
Or Jim Tough status.
Yeah, exactly. But they're getting there. They're getting there. And another thing I just wanted to mention, that the seasons for the hockey teams started on their normal schedule, which is right around Christmas time. They played a couple before Christmas, and now they're really getting into the thick of the things with their schedules.
The hockey playoffs are going to be in mid-March, where usual playoffs used to live.
Yeah, exactly.
So they will go into a March playoff standing.
And again, the team looking good this year, and Coach Demo and both Coach Taylor, they're experienced on keeping the teams focused, and that's important, especially in a rough and tumble sport like hockey.
I will mention, Sherm, that Unified Basketball, their schedule does not start until the early January, and will end in mid-February.
Let's shift gears to the New England scene. First off, Patriots have clinched a playoff berth. Mac Jones had a couple of rotten games prior to Christmas, and then got into the groove, against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who, when I looked at that game and that team, I know they had the first round pick and they went with Trevor Lawrence. That made sense. But follow my logic here. If you wanted to start something good going, and I know they had Urban Meyer as their head coach and no longer with them, I would have given that kid a tight end he could have grown up with, maybe a Hunter Long,
Yeah.
and Hunter Long, Hunter is a very capable player. I know they're kind of bringing
his first pass.
What's that?
He caught his first pass in December.
Yeah. But I mean, they're bringing him along real slow.
No touchdown, but a pass.
Yeah, they're bringing him along real slow, and I guess I understand it. They've got was it Gorecki? I guess is their tight end down there. But the whole thing is, I just wish that Jacksonville had the sense that put those two together. Two young guys coming out of college, could have been the next Brady Gronkowski matchup, but wasn't to be. And that kid Lawrence, he looked pitiful compared to Mac Jones. And you can see, well, right now he's kind of without a real coach. And the rumor is maybe McDaniels might be considered for the head coaching job down there to give him the guidance he needs to become potentially a superstar.
He certainly has the arm. He can certainly sling it. But the problem is he's slinging it the places it shouldn't be slung.
I like the way you put that.
Okay. So he's going to need a lot of help. Mac Jones, on the other hand, has been brought along almost perfectly by Belichick and McDaniel. I think he's certainly in the mix for Rookie of the Year. It's come down between him and Jamar Chase, who is the wide receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. Both have had good and bad games. Both have had outstanding games. Usually the quarterback does have the edge in awards. So that's why I'm guessing that Mac Jones, who probably might get a half in, maybe might play a little bit more before the playoffs. But you don't want to take a chance right now. The Patriots playoff seeding now is the key. You don't know where that's going to end up. So, you rack your brains over what ifs.
Right.
I'm going to tell you my theory about Patriots playoff seeding.
Go for
I want the Patriots to be seeded 5th. I want the Buffalo Bills to be seeded 4th. I want the Patriots' first game to go to Buffalo. And the reason that I want that to happen is Mac Jones has had a game in Buffalo already. He's got some familiarity with playing in Buffalo. Bill Belichick against Sean McDermott has shown that Belichick can beat the Bills, although, Josh Allen had a tremendous game in Foxborough, but he's pretty erratic as well. So I'm hoping that when the playoff seedings all fall out, Buffalo's 4, Patriots 5, first matchup is Patriots at Bills.
Okay. Well, I'd like to see that. Yeah. Now, on the other side, the NFC side, you see a dominant dog. I mean, everybody seems to be giving Aaron Rodgers the Super Bowl trophy. I'm kind of ambiguous about him. Yeah,
I think there's no doubt that you got to go through Green Bay, playing in Green Bay, and the way the Packers are playing right now. I don't see any of the other NFC teams. Possibly, I don't see Brady in Tampa Bay. I mean, he's got too many players out. Unless all of a sudden all his players come back.
Yeah,
just Brady, Gronk, and Antonio Brown is watching basketball games now. So,
man, was that weird or what? Was that weird or what?
I guess if I had to pick a NFC championship game, I'd have Dallas at Green Bay.
Yeah, I'm putting my money on Tampa Bay to take down the Green Bay Packers. That's
Really?
what, at this point, yeah.
Have you watched Tampa Bay lately?
Yeah,
Have you watched them, did you watch them struggle against the Jets the other day?
You know something, man? You cannot turn. Look what they did to the Jets. I mean, you just don't give that guy any.
Oh, I know.
If you give him 2 minutes on the clock, he's going to make you pay. And it goes back to John Madden, and when he had Kenny Stabler. What's your take on Madden now that we bring him up? I thought about that, the passing of John Madden.
Yeah, the All Madden documentary that's playing right now, watch it. I mean, it's outstanding.
Yeah.
If you don't know anything about John Madden, that documentary will tell you why everybody is saying he's a living legend and Mr. Pro Football, without a doubt. You think of, you and I grew up with Madden. Watching him broadcast and things like that. Was there anything better? No, so without a doubt. I mean, you think about, broadcasters we've watched and things like that. Madden was the best.
He had the knowledge, and he was able to put it in layman's terms. That's what matters. Just like Jerry Remy here for the Boston Red Sox. He was a player, but he could tell you from a player's perspective what went right and what went wrong, and he wasn't sugarcoating it either, and neither did Madden for the football. I mean, if a guy stunk up the joint, the only thing I think that the two things that people always kind of question is why he wouldn't fly. He was always in his Madden Cruiser, the big giant bus he had, and then the turducken thing for Christmas and Thanksgiving, and Madden video games forever and ever, amen. And I guess
but the thing that came across my mind was, he coached for 10 years, which is relatively short for the life of a head coach. And, talking about the stresses and whatever just makes, for me, Belichick's situation so much more impressive. To be with his longevity and the number of teams and the stresses that he's been through and things like that. It's tough. And again, it's such a personality driven job that Madden's personality, you can only do it for 10 years. And then he was done.
Well, you think of the guys like Madden, Hank Stram, Ditka. Mike Ditka. Guys like that just dominated the sidelines. It, goes back to everybody kind of was patterning themselves after Lombardi, the guy that, would go up and down the sideline, smacking a program in his hands and yelling out plays and whatever. It was a different generation, but I noticed in this last game, the last Patriots game, after the passing of John Madden, how they took clips of him commenting and complimenting Bill Belichick when he was back with the Giants. And this guy has the potential to be a head coach and have some success in the NFL, and he obviously was right about that. They don't make them like that anymore. And these guys, unfortunately, are cannon fodder. I don't care what sport it is. If they don't produce, it's see you later. I mean, a good example of a misfire was Urban Meyer with Jacksonville. Hockey, we were talking about it earlier. The Bruins had basically an extra vacation off for Christmas for the holidays because of COVID. They're back on the ice again and getting some work. There's a rumor that Tuukka Rask is trying to play his way back in.
Yeah,
we shall see. Celtics, anything on that you want to throw out?
Just COVID. I mean, it's still COVID issues. I mean, Jaylen Brown's had it twice.
Yeah.
Those teams where they have such limited players, you get a COVID outbreak on a team, your game is canceled.
It's scary. And then, of course, the Red Sox. Have you heard anything about the lockout?
Is there a more irrelevant team right now than the Red Sox? Does anybody care about the Red Sox right now? I don't think so. I don't think so. There's no hot stove going on. It's not even lukewarm.
But have you heard about the lockout or what potentially could happen there?
Well, I think that has a lot to do with that. I think a lot of people aren't saying anything right now, and there isn't a lot of movement because they want to figure out what's going to be happening in February when spring training opens up, whether it opens up or not. They're locked out now, and I don't think anybody's going to budge.
I think you're right. I think it's going to be interesting to see if COVID screwed up the season 2 years ago. And last year they got a regular season out, but for whatever worth. But again, a patchwork season with players coming and going. And I don't think they can afford to lose any time. That's the problem.
I mean, there was talk there for a while that they were going to try to go out and maybe swing a deal for Carlos Correa out of Houston and move Xander Bogaerts to second. I think that's the quickest way to send Bogaerts out of town is tell him he's got to switch his position. I don't think that's going to happen either.
Right.
And Sherm, I just can't do it. I just can't watch Jackie Bradley Jr., Mr. Automatic out in the lineup. I don't care how good he is in center field.
I know.
Baseball is all about offense, and you can't take a 150 hitter and put him in your lineup. No matter how nice a guy he is, it's not going to be the answer. Now, I understand why they did it, that Chaim Bloom was able to get two solid potential not draft picks, but minor leaguers who have some potential to come up through the ranks. And his philosophy is, I would rather take one to get two off your hands to build my farm system. So by taking Jackie Bradley Jr. off Milwaukee's roster and his contract, which was $7-8 million, the Red Sox, who can afford that, able to build up with a couple better minor leaguers in their AA and AAA teams.
Right.
So again, looking down the road, important. And the passing of Jerry Remy, certainly one of the situations in 2021. Certainly an end of an era as far as Red Sox broadcasting is concerned. I know that this spring or February, March, we'll have Dave O'Brien back on the show, and certainly getting Dave's observations and stories about Jerry Remy. I think I'm looking forward to that show down the road.
Well, which brings me to one thing I wanted to plug is that we're fortunate enough. Roger Brown basically grew up with Tim Neverett, the former Red Sox announcer, and he's now with the Los Angeles Dodgers doing play-by-play for them. So Tim put out a book called COVID Curveball, and actually Roger had put a blurb on his New Hampshire Hardball website. And so when I saw that, I thought, hey, it's a natural. And since they're friends, I thought maybe they could get him to come on board with us, and he did. And we had a good chat about the book, but about the Red Sox and baseball in general. And he did at the end of it come up with comments about Jerry Remy. And I just want to say he wanted to have a tribute to Jerry Remy from the Red Sox. Hopefully they put his number up on the wall this coming season. That should be a no-brainer and happen. So that's a great show. If people want to catch that, that was our kickoff for 2022. And I thank Roger Brown for making that happen. We also had a couple of great shows prior to the holidays. Josh and Cody Morissette. That was a great show. That's still up there. The one we did with Mike Murphy about the changes coming on the Wildcats. Roger and I did a show about the basketball season. That's still up there. So again, we're busy ending 2021. Now it's kicking off 2022 and getting it going.
I do have to mention the fact that I did enjoy college bowl games this year. I thought that was, if anybody had watched the Rose Bowl between Utah and Ohio State, you don't get a much better exciting game than that. Looking forward to the national championship game coming up later this month.
Well, why don't we go to the 2-minute drill? Go for it.
Okay. Well, I guess my 2-minute drill comes to college football. As I said, I watched a lot of college football over the holiday break and enjoyed almost all of the bowl games, even the blowouts. And I thought games were exciting and well played and interesting. On the other side, there's always the debate right now about opt-outs. Are you angry about players who opt out of bowl games? Are you supportive of players who opt out of bowl games? As you know, about 3 years ago, the first opt-outs occurred when players who were getting ready, quote, getting ready for the NFL draft, decided not to play in a meaningless or not part of their conference bowl game because of potential injury. They don't bring up the injury factor. They say they're getting ready for the draft. So they're on their own kind of workouts and things like that. There's two schools of thought about that. Number one, are you letting your team down if you opt out and just walk away? On the other hand, are you making a sound life career decision because of the potential big money down the road if you're going to be an NFL draft pick? Every year I vacillate back and forth about where I stand on this. Mm-hmm. But I'm coming more and more now. I'm about 80-20 right now on the side of the players who opt out. I think that, number one, if you've got a coach, if you're listening, Lincoln Riley or Brian Kelly, who walk away from their team because of big money deals, Kelly to LSU, Lincoln Riley to the West Coast, how come it's okay for a coach to take the big money and walk away and the player to play with potential injury down the road and not opt out? So I think that's a double standard there in that situation. On the other side, the market has changed considerably. Football is big business. It's big business for the colleges. They've made a lot of money off these players so far. I don't have any problem with the player walking away for a meaningless bowl game to get ready for their next part in life. They need to move on. Don't tell me that playing in the Duke's Mayo Bowl is going to be a big deal for me right now. Okay?
Yeah.
Let me get ready to get drafted and move on. So I don't want to hear it about from some of the broadcasters and people like that. Well, these kids need to be given credit because they showed up and supported their. I don't think they need to get that kind of pressure on them. Let the players opt out. If the bowl situation, I'm going to have that 20% that I talked about, 80-20, that 20% is being held. If the fact that they expand the college playoffs, if they go to a college playoff situation where your next step after your regular season is a playoff game to move toward a national championship, then I think the rules might change a little bit, or my mind will change a little bit in that situation. Okay. But again, going to the Cheetos Bowl, forget it. That's it. Okay. If you're going to be doused by Cheetos or mayonnaise, let it happen. I don't care. A 2-minute drill for the future.
Yeah.
Is going to be transfer portal. And we'll talk about that at a later date.
Yeah, that is something we were talking about with the situation over at UNH, the transfer portal being a big factor now. A 2-minute drill. I just I said I'll lead off with this. The fantasy football league is over and done with for the Seacoast Sports Forum. I know. Sam, what are you going to do? Well, guess what? We didn't end up in first place. Had a shot at it. Actually, it could have been first and second place for my team and your team, you and the coach. But unfortunately, COVID kind of threw a curveball at us.
You can't predict, right? You buy a team and then they don't show up.
You guys had a 6-game winning streak to come in third place, and I got taken down by a better team, and I came in at number 2. So next season, we'll see. Hopefully, as we talked about at the beginning of the show, the COVID factor won't be a factor, but we shall see. So, and thanks to all the guys that were part of the Seacoast Forum Fantasy Football League. We're going to do the baseball. That'll be coming up soon. If anybody's interested, Seacoast Sports Forum at yahoo.com, and we'll get you into the league. I hope the next year, we'll get back to some form of normalcy and get a handle on this thing. So we can, we just have some fun. Just play sports, have fun, relax, and enjoy them. But we'll see. It's just early in 2022. I guess that wraps it up for today then. So for Sam Bruno, Sherm Chester, wishing you a very happy new year, and we'll catch you on the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum. Be sure to subscribe to Exeter TV on YouTube and hit the bell to get notified about new episodes of the Seacoast Sports Forum and other local content. Follow the Sports Forum team behind the scenes on our Facebook and Twitter pages, and send us your game footage and photos to our email. That's seacoastsportsforum.extv@gmail.com. This is Sherm Chester inviting you to join us for the next edition of the Seacoast Sports Forum.